Here we go. We are
All right.
live. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another stream. I have with me a former, and I do say former, employee of MetroState. I'm not going to give you their name per their request, but I have confirmed it through conversations between myself and them, and I'm going to be sending some information with this person's permission to some current employees of MetroState, just so they can be like, yeah, this guy checks out. So, for those of you who are concerned, because I know some of you are, that this person is not legit, I've done my side of it. MetroState's going to do their side of it. We're going to make this happen. But for the moment, let's talk to them. Let's see what they have to say. How are you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I am doing well. Now, we were just having a conversation before the stream started, just sort of establishing a baseline of what the conversation would be, what is off limits as far as topics go, what we think would be interesting for you, the viewers, for those of you watching this. One of the things you mentioned is that you went to high school with Dillon, who is Jeremy or Jay's brother. Do you mind telling me a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I know that, again, we went in a lot of people might know him, again, Dillon. And when I went through high school with him, I was a year older, so he came in as a freshman when I was a sophomore. We were part of the ROTC program. And when later on in life, again, is when all this kind of started happening. When we were out of high school, he came up to a post where I was working actual security at, which was where the town that we lived in. And he actually came in a MetroState vehicle. And I thought it was relatively cool. So, I kind of asked him about it, and he kind of gave me an idea. It was like, hey, if you want to make any extra money, just let me know on the weekends or whatnot. You can make some extra money with us and just let me know. And, we're relatively good friends at that point in time. I recently lost contact with him with all the stuff that was going on. But again, I ended up kind of working with him, and he was the one that kind of introduced me into MetroState and all of that. At that time, it was the early stages of MetroState. It really was.
Excellent. Well, I've seen the vehicles. I certainly would have been interested if I was working right out of high school in being a part of something like that. Not knowing what I know now, of course, about
Right.
I'm not saying the company is bad. It's just that there are some issues that I would not
Right.
want to be involved in. That's for sure. What JROTC program was it? I've seen a picture of Dillon in uniform, and I want to say Air Force.
That is correct. It was the Air Force JROTC program that we are a part of. We are very, very involved in it. I mean, both of us, we were part of the drill team. We did anything from unarmed regulation to armed regulation to color guard to special color guard. We were very, very involved, and like I say, Dillon was very involved, as was I. We ended up getting rank, within the RTC program. He went through our version of summer training was, and it was kind of like a basic training type of thing for the JROTC cadets that were involved in it. So, I mean, we both of us, we were very, very involved in it. So it was a very structured type of program. And again, that's where we met, and that's where we started kind of our friendship there.
Excellent. Now, he has, and I've heard very little about Dillon. Would you describe him as being similar to Jay in demeanor, or is Jay more aggressive than him, less aggressive than him? Just to get an idea.
Not at all.
Okay.
Not at all. Dillon was very, very more laid back
Okay.
than Jay was, I could say. Dillon really had a good heart and wanted to do good for people. He really wasn't that type of person that was as aggressive as Jay.
Sure.
You know, he definitely, they were again they're brothers, but they were definitely at opposite ends of the spectrum, I should say.
Sure. Is this the only brother of Jay, or did Jay have had he ever had other brothers?
I'm not sure. I mean, as far as I know, that's the only brother he had.
Got it. The reason I ask is because there's a video of Jay saying that one of his brothers died in combat, unless I misheard that video. I just wanted to see if maybe there was something that we were missing that added some legitimacy to that video. Now, you said you were telling me about how the name MetroState came about.
Right. So from what I was told, again through Jay, and everything, it started. I know it started a long time ago as a security agency. It was a legitimate agency, a security agency that I ended up working for, that they resurfaced later on while I was working with MetroState. But I know that if you see closely, and I'm not sure if they have some legit photos of them in uniform that has a pin or a patch that says SROT, which is a Special Operations Response Team. How that started was they used to do some type of operations and competitions with airsoft guns, and supposedly they won some competitions and stuff, and that's how it started originally. I know for a fact, again, like I stated before, that it was a legitimate security company called MetroState Enforcement, which later on, and within probably like 2013, 2014, they actually resurfaced the security agency, which we had several of apartment complex that we worked for, and it was a family member of Jay's that was the actual owner of that specific entity of the company. So then I worked for them directly, and it was completely separate from MetroState Protection Agency, which was the was the funeral escort part of it.
Sure. Now, as far as funeral escorts, going back into this, because I'm all over the place, why not? We all know about Jay's issue currently. You were telling me that Dillon has also had a few issues of his own, separate to what Jay's been going with. Would you be interested in talking about that and discussing how that has happened?
Well, I mean, I don't know too much about Dillon as far as the legal aspect. I know that he's had a couple of accidents as well.
Sure.
Definitely, for a fact, I know more accidents than Jay has had from early on. Even when I wasn't even on the motorcycle, I was just driving the vehicles. I know from early on, he was in about 2 to 3 accidents. A couple of them that weren't part of the actual escort. One of them, I think it was. As far as I know, the other former employee that advised that one of the things that kind of turned him off was that when he was going from escort to escort, Jay would call him and be like, "Hey, you need to get here as fast as you can," stuff like that. I know that one of them was a factor of that. It was he was going from one escort to the other and ended up, crashing because he was trying to get to the other escort as fast as possible. As I know for a fact, and I'm not sure if this is going to be one of your future questions, but when I first started MetroState, it wasn't what it is today.
Sure.
And especially that's when I came back in 2017. It wasn't what it was before. There was a lot of things that were happening that we didn't do before. There was a lot of things that, again, that were put in place when I was gone that wasn't there before I left. So, and again, it's really something that at that point I didn't want to be a part of.
Okay.
I know when I came back, Dillon was not there. Dillon had left.
Okay.
And I think he came back for a little bit and then left again. And he was doing great for himself. But Jay's part of that kind of, like, coach, I mean, it's his company. It was his baby. I mean, like, I know that I've seen several of your streams, and the first time that you contacted MetroState, that was him that picked up the number that's on the website. That's his personal phone number. It goes to him.
That's
anything feeds through him.
We suspected that. I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but there's been a lot of talk about that for sure.
Right.
So Dillon has, I'm trying to find a picture of, there's this accident happened around 2015 that looked pretty bad. And I had all of these saved. I have them on a SD card. And of course, the SD card is now in my camera, here it is. All right. Problem solved. So I have it on an SD card, but I need to put an SD card in my camera to have it run, and that was a mistake on my part. But there is a picture on my stream of a crash. I don't know if it's the right one. I have no idea, but it is the way that some of this stuff is done. The driving is fairly dangerous. I personally believe that there are ways that it could be done better, but I'm not there. I'm not doing this job. I could be wrong. I've never tested my ideas with a motorcycle. Certainly, my ideas come from doing this or training to do this in combat zones with much larger vehicles in different types of areas. So I'm not saying that it's wrong. I will say that some of what I've seen is definitely illegal, but I'm not saying that it's an ineffective way of moving and getting to intersections and holding them. So it doesn't surprise me that there have been accidents for sure.
Right.
Speaking of things that have happened to both Dillon and Jeremy, though, or Jay, Dillon has also been charged with personating a police officer under Florida state law. How did that happen?
So now I know that there was an accident around 2017. I know it was before that, before he left for the final time that he left. It was an accident with somebody that ended up cutting into the escort. And again, aggressively, I'm not sure. I'm not sure of the full details, but aggressively went towards him or actually hit them with the vehicle.
Sure.
Now, Dillon actually filed charges against that driver, and that driver ended up getting arrested. Now, when all of this with Jay came up, I believe, I'm not sure if it was Orange County or if it was Orlando that ended up investigating it, got a hold of the video and actually determined that that video had enough probable cause to actually charge Dillon. Now, here in the state of Florida, obviously, with other states, there's what's called statutes of limitations to certain crimes. And I believe that crime has a statute of limitations for about 3 to 5 years. So since that was in 2017, they were still able to file an arrest warrant for Dillon for impersonating a police officer off of the video that they obtained. Sure. So I believe that's how that happened. It's the same incident that happened with Jay. I know he originally got charged for with the Windermere Police Department. They obtained that footage that he had originally on that specific date that he got arrested first. Now, Orange County filed a warrant to review that video, and that video actually showed him committing these crimes within their jurisdiction. So they still had, due to the statute of limitations, they still had the legal authority to prosecute and to charge him with those crimes, even though it was before the date that the evidence was obtained. Okay, got it. That makes sense. I'm reading through my chat right now, and APR is there. APR is an employee of MetroState, and we've talked a few times. Now,
not to distract you from the stream, but in the interest of credibility, moving forward with the information, APR has been saying that you were fired for lying, and I'm not trying to accuse you of anything. If that's the case,
No, absolutely.
okay, that's cool. But I'm wondering if that's something you want to talk about, not something you have to talk about. And I just bring it up because he keeps messaging it, and I feel like maybe it should be addressed.
Right. No, I was never fired. Even long before I decided to leave, Jay actually kept calling me to come back.
Okay.
So again, if I was ever fired, again, that wouldn't have been an issue. He would never have been calling me back to actually, return to work because, at the same time, the MetroState has a very, very high turnover rate.
Sure.
They don't tend to retain a lot of people because of the nature of the job. So, at this point, again, he could say whatever he wants to say because it could be whatever Jay is saying, to the employees at this point in time. But I was never fired from that job. Again, I was one of the people that stuck with him for a very, very long time, regarding the circumstances that the company was with.
Sure.
We and to Jay's defense and to MetroState's defense, there was some bias, through the local law enforcement, like Orange County. They kind of were going out of their way to kind of see and investigate what was going on. And since the statute, the statute is really clear, but there is some gray area
sure.
to the statute. Then again, that's what Jay kind of took advantage of. Again, that's to MetroState's defense. There was a lot of times where Orange County was kind of going out of their way to go after MetroState.
Got it. I have another question related to that, and then I want to go back into what we were talking about before. Now, in just discussion of people being fired for lying, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I have your story, and then APR's in the chat saying his own thing. I'm going to let the chat decide how they feel about that.
Right.
As far as lying goes, though, Jay has been caught saying a few things that are unlikely to be true. I'll say this, folks in the chat who are viewing this, I'm trying to be fair and impartial here, which is why I'm not going after anything or anyone. I'm trying to remain calm about this. There are videos where Jay has claimed that he served in the military. He's made a lot of claims, 12 years, that he was a major, that he jumped into Fallujah. There is very little evidence to establish that any of that is correct. I've run the numbers of how much time he would have to spend in training prior to his conviction for the lewd and lascivious battery in the 3rd degree. I've heard his explanation on that. That's his whole deal. Sucks to be him. Sucks to be her. It's not something I really feel like I need to cover unless you have information about that. But the numbers don't match what he's saying. A request for information from IPERMS, which is the military record tracking thing. It's a great description, I know. Shows that they don't have any records of him. Are you familiar with his claims of military service?
Yes, I know for a fact that he's told me plenty of stories about how he was in the Army,
sure,
and whatnot. And I know the actual video that you're speaking of, and I have friends of mine that have also been in the military and specifically in the Army, and have seen the videos and have seen the photos that he has in uniform.
Sure. And
kind of, have they brought up the same doubts that you have? Mm-hmm. So again, to that point, I know that I never had any grounds. I was never in the military, so I don't have the grounds to kind of call
Sure.
him out on a lot of that stuff. But yeah, he has said specifically how he was in the Rangers, and he ended up being up to a major in the military and whatnot. And the reason that he got into the military was that he was supposedly a police officer for Oviedo,
Right.
and his sergeant at the time made him do an arrest on a suspended license that he didn't think needed to be an arrest, and his sergeant supposedly made him arrest the guy and whatnot. And from that point on, he's like, hey, I don't think this is for me. I think I'm gonna join the Army. So he joined the Army at that point. That's the story kind of he told people in MetroState, or
Sure.
again, he told me. So, but yeah, he's always had claims that he's been in the military, he was in the Army, he was in the Rangers, and he's always had different things that and memorabilia that would, for the person that hasn't been in the military, you would think like, hey, this guy was a veteran.
Sure. It makes sense. I mean, that basically is similar to what we've found. As someone who has served in the military, I am not happy about his claims.
Right, absolutely.
It's certainly not something that I would be unable to get past. If Jay apologized to me for it, all right, cool. I've been emailing him. He emails me every once in a while with some of his concerns, and I give him the information I can. And recently he's been very upset with me. He thinks I'm not responding to his emails, which isn't true. I've been asking him very specifically, can you explain your claims to military service? So hopefully maybe he'll see this and get that information, because apparently he's not getting my emails. I would love to hear more from him directly about those claims, but that's neither here nor there. Back to the interview. I have a list of questions. Let me go over them. You said that you had a security license, that you worked in security prior to being part of this company. Now, talking to Jay, I have my interview that I've done with him that I'm still trying to piece back together. Folks, those of you who are watching, still piecing together the audio. I'm putting out what I can. I'm so sorry about that. But as far as the security aspect of MetroState itself, the company advertised itself as, providing VIP protection, escorts, and there are a lot of things that allude to the fact that they would be security. It doesn't say security anywhere on the website, but personally, I don't think legally that is incredibly important. As someone who has worked in security, do you believe that you had been asked while conducting your job with MetroState to function in a security type role?
Yes, I believe so. And just to kind of touch on that, we actually done certain security details. And I know there's one of the photos that I sent you, and they were kind of posing in front of somebody that's like famous. He was actually an Arab, the American Idol winner of cause each country now has like a American Idol or whatnot. He was the winner of American Idol, but in another country. I think it was either Egypt or Iran. And he was here during a specific convention in Tampa, and we went to actually do security for him. As far as it had nothing to do with funeral escorts. And again, Jay was there, and we actually got contracted to do that. Now, technically, since I was the only one that had a security license at that point, I was the only one that was eligible to actually work and be contracted as a security officer.
Right.
At that point in time. But yes, I could definitely say that we have been, contracted by Jay to do security details that have nothing to do with the state statute of funeral processions.
Got it. Now, you're saying you're the only one that was actually technically qualified to do that, as far as having the correct license to do it. Were you the only one that did it, or were other people also involved in that?
No, I mean Jay was involved directly.
Okay, so he was there.
Right.
Did you end up using lights and sirens for that, or was it just sort of in person off the bikes?
Right. No, it was at that point in time, like for that specific event that we did.
Sure.
It was in-house. It was at this convention center, so
Right,
we
okay.
weren't escorting that person anywhere. It was part of, we were in the convention center. We were providing security for that specific event.
Got it. All right, that makes sense. It's certainly a little concerning
Right.
that he would take that contract, especially since he made it very clear to me that MetroState did not operate in a security capacity, and unfortunately, the wording on the website was a little off, and that we'll fix it. Hasn't been fixed, but it's only been a few weeks. Some people are asking in the chat before I go on to the next question, and before I forget, are you at all familiar with the WWE Appearance that the MetroState ambulance made?
I did see the video that Real World Police posted.
Right.
Again, I wasn't anywhere affiliated with that.
Got it. So that was definitely after your time then.
Correct. Yes.
Okay.
I know that when I came back in 2017, they had purchased an ambulance.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for his kind of explanation was it that they were going to kind of another MetroState entity was going to be a ambulance or EMS.
Right.
Kind of section division of MetroState, and he was going to do it, in a legit way.
Sure.
Which, I mean, at that point, I didn't doubt him. So again, but when I saw that, like I say, obviously, with all that was going on, that was kind of his only outlet to, to kind of be in the spotlight with it, or even to utilize that vehicle, So it was very humorous for me because again, I knew that at that point, that wasn't the sole purpose of it.
Got it. All right. That's too bad that you weren't there for that because I have so many questions. Right. And I mean, that's if he can do that, that's fine. He can own that ambulance, and he can act in a private capacity with it. There are definitely limitations on the medical services he can provide unless he's licensed with the state. But I saw that and I thought it was amazing. Just, I mean, obviously, what's not to love about that?
Right. Right.
Now, speaking of the other people he engages with, so obviously WWE has used him at least once. I've seen him involved in charity runs. I've seen him in parades. He's got a lot of footage of that, which is, I mean, very exciting for him that he is able to be a part of those things. But I know that he's been involved with Michael Breen, who is an attorney with 911 Biker Law. I had already asked you about this. We had questions I sent beforehand to see if anything were worth talking about. You said you didn't know much about Michael Breen, but you were slightly familiar with Chance Shoal, who also runs some sort of charity.
Correct.
What do you know about him?
I know he's part of what's called the Iron Pigs motorcycle club.
Okay.
Which that club it's directly anybody that was former law enforcement or is currently in law enforcement, and that's all they do. What they do, they ride to raise funds for non-profit organizations. I mean, it's a very, very legit club. Again, like I said, it's called the Iron Pigs. They used to do a specific charity run which they would partner with it's called the Ribbon Riders. The Ribbon Riders are a specific nonprofit organization that does charity events for breast cancer awareness. Now, you might be wondering why some of the times you see on some of the pictures that, MetroState guys are wearing the polo shirts in the color of pink. That's because those are the events that they do. So all the ribbon riders or any breast cancer awareness events that we would do, we would wear the pink shirt. But yes, I know for a fact, I worked specifically about 3 or 4 events, which was with Chance, through the ribbon riders, with the Iron Pigs, through breast care awareness, and we would always wear pink during those events. And we were not escorting any type of funeral. It was always normally motorcycles, because again, since Chase was directly involved with the motorcycle community, it was always motorcycles that we would escort. So I think the one that, if I could send you that picture, there was a couple of them that we did that were actually in front of the New Moors Hospital, which was it's one of the hospitals that dedicates their treatment and their specific care to cancer patients. So again, not all of MetroState is I would say, to their defense, is completely soulless, and all we do is tell people to get off our escort. We would do really good things.
No, I believe that. I 100% believe that. I just think that there have been there's footage that's come out that shows MetroState in a bad light. And I mean, this is a company that's run for 10 years, and I don't want anyone thinking that I am out to get MetroState. I think there are certain issues that need to be addressed, but I would love to see the company continue. We're talking years of footage condensed into short YouTube videos that show a lot of bad stuff, and it does show bad stuff, and it is stuff that the police would be concerned about. One of the concerns that Jay has had, that he has brought to me multiple times, is that why am I being targeted when all these other companies are doing the same thing? Well, not to get off topic, but that's exactly what I'm about to do. The other companies that I've seen, and maybe I haven't seen as much as I need to, they don't look nearly as much like police officers as people employed with MetroState in certain uniforms that they have, which is obviously concerning if you're impersonating a police officer. If you look the part and you're acting the part, and people assume that you are a police officer and then obey your instructions, that's impersonation. Generally, I mean, in the laws that I've enforced, that would be impersonation. Now, Florida, obviously, they think it's enough to charge him. He is not convicted. He's innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Just throwing that out there. But there are issues that do need to be addressed. And the reason we know about all these issues is because Jay wore a body cam and other people wore body cams, and it recorded everything. So when the police got involved and they went, oh, there's footage? Oh, there's more footage? Well, let's subpoena all of it. And they got all the evidence. I want to the people who are concerned about why MetroState is being targeted like this. My personal belief is that it's because the evidence is there, and the evidence is easy to get. And I mean, there's a lot of footage to review, but it's there. That's why you follow the evidence. You go where the evidence is. So, and I think and I hope that this will promote stronger regulations on these other companies as well, to sort of get everyone back on track. Because if everyone's doing it, that's a problem. And it's unfortunate that Jay has to be the one that might be the cause of that. But someone has to be, and unfortunately, that's the way it is. I mean, it's nice. It's great that charities happen. And I have seen the pink shirts and the pink badges and the pink decals on the cars. And Chance, my understanding is that Chance is actually an air marshal or some sort of federal marshal, which is pretty cool that you guys get to work with him. Has that ever come up?
It has,
with him?
And it has. I knew he was, and I know we've had several other people that have been former law enforcement, and former military that have been a part of MetroState. And just to clarify, you've really done a great job on kind of being the person that says, like, hey, like, I'm just seeing the facts. You really have a non-biased opinion on this, and I congratulate you for that. No, absolutely. You've really done a great job on it. And again, the one of the reasons and one of the points that you've been making, one of the reasons why kind of MetroState's been targeted is because MetroState's one of the companies that do this, that really took advantage of not only the gray area of the statute, is that they really walk that line between what's illegal and what's legal.
Sure.
And those other companies here in Orlando that do escorts, and I know Heath mentioned that when he did an interview with you, is that their specific focus is security. You know, they only do this kind of on kind of the side, right? So when you really look at it, when you take a company that specifically dedicates their time to escorts, they're going to see every single way they could get away with how their advantage is going to be during that specific escort. I mean, when you sit there and, you know, Jay gets a specific escort, right, for a specific funeral, he goes through every specific route that is possible from point A to point B, and he sees which one is going to be the correct one for the the number of officers we have, and B, the number of vehicles that this escort's going to have. You know, so when you have somebody that's dedicated to it, again, it kind of plays both sides. You know, you're gonna push the line because you're solely dedicated to this. You know, so that's something that I believe, since he equipped his people so well, he equipped people with body cams and helmet cameras. Then the time that he did get caught doing the wrong thing, it kind of surfaced everything.
Got it. Yeah. And it's unfortunate. And I get that. I'm not saying that Jay is trying to do this for nefarious reasons or because he wants to break the law. I do think that he has a pretty reasonable justification for why he runs some of the things he does. I mean, I'm not saying that it's right, but his justification isn't bad. And basically it comes down to this isn't how the escorts used to be run. They were much more calm and slow and
right,
you know, whatever. There were some runs with that had police involvement, and this is all in the interview that I'm still trying to piece together. And so when he was working with the police, they'd be like, hey, you know, hold this intersection, do this thing. And I've contacted Orange County about this, and some people there have given me some very vague information, which basically comes down to there were some officers that did not realize that Jay was not real police. So when they instruct, and this might be them just trying to save face, right? When they told him, hey, hold that intersection, they thought that he was some sort of legitimate agency. Otherwise, they wouldn't have had him do that. But then, of course, when Jay's like, oh, I'm allowed to do this now? Great, this is what I'm going to do. And the question has come up, well, you know, how could they not know he's a legitimate agency? If we look at the video of him being confronted by the police when he's outside of Buffalo Wild Wings, and this is the video in which he says that he was in the military, and he's talking to some of the security guys. He's like, what's your GS level? I want people to look at how confident he was in what he was saying. Now, what he was saying wasn't, we believe, correct, but he was so incredibly confident. I can tell you that if I was a police officer, again, and I saw him, I went, what agency is he? And I asked, and he went, you better figure it out, dude. I'd be like, oh, this guy's important. I'm not messing with that. You do your thing, bud. And according to Orange County, that's essentially what happened. And so they had him do a thing that, I mean, technically they have the authority to ask him to do that, but he took that, from what I understand, this is me piecing a bunch of pieces together. It might not be accurate. From what I understand, he said, oh, well, I can hold intersections. Great. I can leapfrog. I can do this speeding, you know, because I've done that. And then the police have pulled me over, and then they didn't ticket me. So it must be okay. When there are a lot of factors to that could be, it's not okay, but he was very confident in what he was doing, and the police weren't familiar with the statute, and they went, well, okay, we'll figure it out next time, right? And there are a lot of reasons, and over 10 years, this happening over and over and over again, it's understandable that he would think that what he's doing is okay. And I'm not trying to say that he's doing this and he's breaking the law intentionally. I think he does believe he's doing it correctly, and I think that this will work as a defense to some of the charges that he's facing. I don't think it's going to get him out of everything, but it is a pretty good justification technically. I don't think it's going to be good enough. The way he's talking about his lights, he's like, look, we obeyed the instructions from the police, and
that is very true, by the way.
Yeah.
That is very, very true, by the way. I was with them at that time to where, to believe it or not, MetroState used to have all white lights back in the early days. So when they got together, they actually got together with Orange County, and they had a meeting with a lot of the higher ups, a lot of the brass of Orange County, and they said, like, look, the statute says this, and that. Why don't you guys go to purple and amber lights?
Right.
And you know what? Jay was completely okay with it. And I know as far as the uniform, that was part of the kind of the meeting that they had. And like, we're going to agree on this thing. So as far as, and I've been, and I could completely testify, and I've been on specific escorts to where, we've thought that, certain agencies were pulling us over, but not really. They were telling us to go. They were telling us, really, oh no, I'll get this intersection for you. You guys can go ahead. We actually had a specific agency. I'm not going to mention the agency, but we have a specific agency that went through their jurisdiction covering us as relief until we left their jurisdiction. So it's not to the fact to where, again, that the agencies didn't know what we were doing. It's that they didn't understand the statute.
Right.
They didn't understand the statute whatsoever. So they would think that what we were doing was okay.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's how they do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So why would we do it any different? And I think that's the line that he walked in. It's like, I'm going to walk in the line of these people they are unsure what the statute is.
Sure.
So I'm going to go ahead and walk that line. And again, he did it for so many years. And like you said before, I think because it's been so long, it would be a good defense.
Mm-hmm. Unless
I know a good prosecutor is going to bring up, before MetroState was even a thing, he was already charged with impersonating a police officer. Right. So it's not going to hold any weight that the company's been doing this for so long.
Yeah.
And
that, I mean, certainly 2015, this had been an issue as well.
Correct.
And then it's coming back now. Before I get into that, because I do want to get into that, I keep promising my chat I'm going to ask you. APR, who I've discussed with you as the person who is trying to make sure that you were legitimate earlier. His name's APR in this chat, and I've talked to him on my stream before. He's saying that with the that security job that you guys did in the convention, that it was more of a theatrical. You were there to look important, but not to actually be important, if that makes sense. Would you agree?
Right.
I mean, and maybe that's what it was on paper. Is that what was conveyed to you?
No, absolutely not. When we have to go to, again, he was the person that we were protecting at that point, was, again, a celebrity to the Islamic people, right? So at that point, when we had to go up to his room to go get him to come down and then wait for him at the door for him to actually perform and then come out and then escort him back to the room, is that theatrical to you? No, you're actually protecting this person.
Sure. So you would have absolutely protected him if you thought there was an issue.
Absolutely. And it's to the point to where we had to go around, okay, and kind of patrol around the vicinity of where we were. It's not theatrical. Again, I wasn't new to security at the time, and I knew exactly what I was doing, and I was doing exactly what I would do at my other job is, you do comprehensive patrolling of where you were. You would
Mm-hmm.
assess the situation, whatever situation came up. We had radios. We were communicating with each other, so it wasn't to the fact at all. By whoever this person is that's communicating with you, that is an actual employee of them,
Sure.
doesn't know as much information as they think they know. And again, I'm not trying to offend anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but again, I know them personally, and he would obviously Jay, he would pick me directly to do these certain events because he knew I had the experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure who this person is. It could be Jay. You never know. I mean, it could be Jay kind of putting the mask on this whoever under behind the screen and kind of accommodating whatever the perception that he wants people to have.
Sure.
But I mean, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that they have on your feed.
Excellent. Well, as they come up, I'll be sure to throw them your way. And I'm not ruling out the possibility that it is Jay. I just know that I've talked to them before.
Right.
And I mean, but people can share accounts. In the interest
Absolutely.
of fairness, I'll put that out there. But I'm going to assume, for the sake of simplicity, because I don't want to have to wrap my head around it, that it isn't Jay. But maybe it is.
Right.
So back to the
never know.
incident. Sorry?
No, I say you never know. So.
Oh, yeah. You never know. Back to the incident in 2015. So we know what's happening now. A lot of the charges are for things that happened in 2018 through 2020.
Right. Correct.
But there was, I mean, this started happening in 2015 as well, and the police were sort of called off of that. What was that like?
Again, we were getting, and just to kind of clarify, we were getting pulled over a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it was a known issue. I know personally he had, and I don't know the truth to all this, but I know he had supposedly civil lawsuits against the law enforcement agencies that were giving us tickets and weren't very clear on what they were actually enforcing. Because again, like I said before, people didn't really know the statute unless they went back in their car and looked up, 316.19, I think 74, I think it is the statute. So people really didn't know what the statute is. So they had to go back to the car and look it up, right? So they didn't know what to charge us with. They didn't know what to ticket us for, so back then they knew that something was wrong, but they didn't know what. Right. So I think and it was the volume of it, the amount of police officers that didn't know what was going on, but they were pulling us over anyways, and they knew they have enough reasonable suspicion to pull us over.
Sure.
But again, at that point in time, they didn't really know what they had, and that's what I believe. And again, I could be completely wrong in that, but that's what I believe. So I know that there were several lawsuits that went on. I don't know the truth to that. That's what I was told back in the day. There was a lot of lawsuits that were going on to the agencies that were pulling us over and giving us tickets for what we were doing, because supposedly we were protected under the state statute. So it was really it was tough because we tried to do what he told us to do, but obviously law enforcement would intervene in that and would pull us over and would tell us, you cannot do this. This is the proper way to do it, which I know you mentioned it in one of you went through the statute and kind of digest the statute and looked at it. Well, you're at that point, you as the escort agency, you are part of the procession. Now the procession has to enter the intersection legally, and then at that point, the procession has right away until the complete procession has left the intersection. But when you were looking at how they were doing things, which they were going way ahead of the procession to catch a green light, to be able to hold, because you were technically part of the procession. That's where that gray area is,
Right.
because you technically you're a part of the procession, but you were going way ahead of it to catch the green light, to be able to hold that light until the funeral got to you. So that's where agencies were really seeing we're really seeing where this wasn't right. Something wasn't right, So I think that's where it all started, around that time, actually, 2014, 2015, is where people really started seeing like who is this people? And again, with how they were outfitting everybody, obviously, people aren't going to, if you don't look like a police officer, obviously people aren't really going to respect you. So it was that point of like, people don't know that you have to yield to a funeral. People have no idea.
No, that's fair. They really
right.
Yeah.
Right. People don't know that law. So if you have to kind of look apart to be able to people to be like, okay, wait, this is official, right?
Right.
So I have to stop. If not, then he wasn't going to get any credibility if he just outfitted his people, in a different way. And I think that's where he was going with it. I don't think he was intentionally trying to be like, well, let's be cops today. Let's let's try to be cops. But no, it was, I have to look somewhat official so that people on the road can actually respect what we're doing. So I think that's where he was going with, and it got out of hand, because the more rope that they gave him, the more rope that he had to hang himself.
Sure. And that, I mean, I agree with that. You want to look the part so that people do respect you. Obviously, you have to be very, very careful at that point.
Correct.
With how you behave, which is now the issue. But we can go back and we can say, well, reasonably, why does he act that way? Because he thinks he can, based on these things, which is going to be a pretty solid defense. However, I mean, there's a lot of stuff that he, as we've already said, that he's going to struggle to defend. And then, of course, his previous criminal history in regards to impersonation. This isn't the first time, of course, that this has been an issue, which isn't going to help him. But it's a big thing, and it's definitely gotten much bigger than I expected it to be. When I made my video on it, it was just a throwaway video, like, oh, real world police doing this thing. I'll put in my 2 cents, and then all of a sudden, it exploded, which is now we're here doing this. So I never set out to do this, and I'm just trying to do this to pacify some of the people who work for MetroState. I never set out to discredit MetroState or Jeremy DeWitt. I point out some things that I had concerns about, and now that I'm actually discussing this for real, there's more than one side of the story. So there are a lot of people in the chat that are out for blood.
Correct.
I do encourage you to try to view this from all angles, and I'm not defending his actions. No. There's a lot of stuff that I'm very frustrated about, being able to see it and the evidence that's there, and I'm looking at it going, this is absolutely wrong. He cannot do this. But that doesn't mean he's not a person. That doesn't mean he doesn't have some sort of justification for his actions. So we're trying to approach this fairly neutral. Now,
that's correct.
Some people in the chat, bringing up more stuff in the chat, want to know, there was a fire. I have pictures from early 2016 of a fire that broke out. Some of the vehicles, the MetroState vehicles, had been burned.
That's correct.
Are you familiar with how that happened?
From what I remember, and I think this is when I wasn't really working with them very often. I came back shortly in 2015, 2017, and only worked with them for a limited time. So 2016, I wasn't really working with them very much. But from what I remember, it had something to do with, the battery, I think, that some of the vehicles had.
Okay.
Now, if you really look at, some of the videos that MetroState has, they really outfit the vehicles with more lights than law enforcement do, just to put it in that perspective. A lot more lights.
I've seen some videos where there are a lot of lights. Sure.
There are a lot of lights, and I know that there's even a Facebook page. It was the Jeremy Dewitt fan club page that's on Facebook that shows a company here in Orlando that their dedication is to put lights, to install lights
Sure.
into vehicles of law enforcement, first responders, and whatnot. And they actually outfitted some lights for MetroState. Because I know he mentioned that in your interview with him, that he's the one that does all the lighting and does all of that. He actually did do all that by himself. Jeremy's a very, very smart guy.
And it's impressive. I couldn't have done it.
Very, very impressive. Very, very handy. And he's the one that actually used to do it until, this company came around, and he kind of, got to know the owners of the company, and then they were doing stuff for him. But at the same time, he would do what he could, to save some money. But I know for a fact that it had to do something with the wiring that was in one of the vehicles, and then the vehicles actually ended up catching fire overnight. So when they got there the next morning, the vehicles were burned. But I wasn't 100% sure. I know that happened while I was gone.
Sure.
But I obviously they mentioned it when I came back.
Yeah, I mean it's terrible to see, and I'm not happy that it happened. I hate to see police-looking vehicles burn to the ground. Certainly, I mean that appears to be a Crown Vic. Yeah, it's a Crown Vic. I love me a Crown Vic. I hate to see it burned.
Right.
But yeah, there were some people asking if that was because, I mean, Jeremy wires a lot of the stuff himself, but
Correct.
I know that he also uses other companies. I'm not trying to say that he wired it improperly and it started. I mean, these things do happen. I've dealt with vehicle fires before, not my vehicles, but things I've responded to, and sometimes it's just an unfortunate happenstance. So a couple people in the chat are saying that was insurance fraud. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole. I have no evidence that is what happened.
That's hard to prove.
That would be very hard to prove.
That's hard to prove, man. I'm sorry. And I just don't think that somebody would go out their way like, oh, let me burn my vehicles. No, that's I mean, I could understand where they're coming from, but I knowing Jeremy personally, I don't think that would be his way of doing it. At that point in time, MetroState was growing a lot, like very, very rapidly. So I don't think he had issues with money. I don't think he had those type of issues for him to go out of his way, be like, oh, let me burn some vehicles so I could get new ones. No, he was buying new motorcycles, buying new vehicles, every couple months.
Sure.
So it wasn't. I don't think that was the case at all.
Right. Now, speaking of buying a lot of vehicles, it's impressive. The fleet that he has is pretty incredible. And looking at that, I'm a little bit jealous because I'm on my own personal fleet of police cars. I'll tell you that right now. Not to do anything with, just to drive around and look fancy.
Right.
It's now you guys know a thing about me. Great. Was the company as lucrative as Jay has claimed? I mean, he says, we were getting a lot of people, escorting funerals. And it's Florida. A lot of people die in Florida. It's, a lot of people go to retire in Florida. I don't know if that's the area you guys were in, but I understand that there are a lot of funerals and a lot of escorts to be done. But that stuff cannot be cheap. Was the money coming in really good enough to support that kind of equipment?
I mean, I believe so. When I would go to the office and whatnot, I would see equipment everywhere. Now, he would buy a lot of the stuff online, people on eBay or on Amazon or stuff like that. So, it was relatively cheaper than when you would buy it at a store or, an equipment store. So it was a lot of stuff that was bought through the person directly, through the buyer directly. So I think so. I mean, I know that um, on one of the videos, he actually kind of names a price. I think it was one of the detectives that had
Mm-hmm.
one of the charity people
Sure.
call him and discuss the rates on a charity run, and he said normally it's 160 an officer, right?
Right.
But he was giving them the military discount and whatnot. Now, I want to point out, that the 160 an officer was not near what he would pay us,
Right.
for the escort. So his margins were very, very, very high,
Right.
on what he would pay the officer and what he would get for the officer. So I don't think that he had the money to actually buy all that equipment.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he must be really good with money, and because he had several storage units and offices and stuff like that where we would show up to work, and that's where he stored the bikes and the vehicles. So I don't believe that he was getting the money from elsewhere. I could be wrong,
Right.
but yeah, I mean, again, his from what he was paying us and to what they were paying him, he was
Mm-hmm.
getting a pretty good profit.
Got it. The reason I asked
And
is, go ahead. Go ahead.
no, and then not to mention that he would be on the a lot of the escorts most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
So he would save that from paying somebody because he was actually on the escort and he was the owner of the company. So that's also a big point of, he was profiting off of, the one officer that he didn't have to pay, which was himself. So
Of course. The reason I ask is because there have been claims that there have been people who invested in the company who are now a
right.
little upset about what's happening. And I'm trying to sort of pursue that angle, but it's a difficult angle to pursue. You wouldn't happen to know anything about
Yeah.
that?
No, as far as I know, I don't know of any investors, legit, like
Mm-hmm.
outside investors,
Sure.
probably besides family. I mean, I'm
Right.
pretty sure he had anybody, family that was involved that actually believed in what he was doing. But I don't think there was any outside investors that say, "Hey, let me, invest in this company," because it was probably, I'm not saying it was probably a little too small to invest in. It made
Sure.
no sense to invest in because your return wouldn't be as much. It had to be somebody that, it's a small business that will support, a small family household. It's not going to support, a family of six, with
Mm-hmm.
4 kids, but it's going to support a small family of
Right.
two. So I don't think there was. If there was, it was probably after time I was gone,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know how he pulled that off, but definitely as far as family, I do see that, to where if there's any type of family that kind of invested or put money into the company because it's something that they believed in, then
Right.
I don't see where that's totally out of the picture.
Right. That makes sense. Something completely off topic that
Okay.
I want to discuss, and I hesitate to say it because I'm not trying to target anyone, but in the interest of sort of getting into the mind of Mr. DeWitt, he has told me that he loves his wife very, very, very much, that she is the world to him. On the other hand, I have people claiming that he brings women back to the office. I have a news report that says that he was doing some online dating in 2000,
Yeah.
I want to say 18. And look, if that's how you want to live your life, that's how you live your life. That's okay, right? I'm not passing judgment. But do you believe these accusations of infidelity have any basis in fact?
I don't believe, I know.
Okay.
So He used to brag about it a lot. He used to show me proof of it
Sure.
through messaging, and whatnot. And I know from, again, this is when I came back roughly in the early 2017. The person that you see in the Tampa video with the female in the pink shirt,
Sure.
that was one of the females that he was involved with. But again, I wasn't there long enough to see proof of that. I would see little hints in here and there, but it wasn't to the fact to where like I knew for sure. But yes, when in the early stages and when I was deeply involved with Metro, again, he used to brag about it, and he used to show me, the text messages and the profiles that he would have in certain platforms and dating platforms. So I know for a fact that if it happened, it happened. I don't have a doubt in my mind that it didn't.
Sure. Well, that answers that question. That's for sure. All right. That was very straightforward about that. I didn't expect it to be a hard yes like that. But that's how it is. I'm looking over the questions that I sent that I wanted to run by you, and at the things that you said that you wanted to potentially bring up. And one of the things you wanted to talk about was the interaction between Jay and the employees and what that was like.
Right. So again, that was one of the things that I saw did become worse throughout the early ages of MetroState, through when obviously he would show up and have 9-10 officers split up. Obviously there was a time to where he had four or five officers, right, responding, and we would split up, and then sometimes we would get back together to do one certain escort, and it was very, very tight group. I mean, to be honest with you, he would buy a Starbucks every single morning. That was something that was the old times, and we would go to Starbucks and we would brief there. We were like, hey, this person is going here, here, here. We're splitting up, and then we're coming back to this specific location and doing this one together, and then we're splitting up again. And this person is going from this point A to point B. We would brief our day at a Starbucks, and he would buy a Starbucks, and that's something that was very, very nice of him. We didn't ask him to do that. That's something that he did on his own. And I thought that was very, very nice of him. And it was something socially cool. It was like, hey, my boss buys me Starbucks every time I work, and I go work, and then I make money, right? So when it got to where MetroState was actually growing, and now you're not talking about 4 or 5 officers showing up, or 4 or 5 employees, I should rephrase, showing up and working. It was more 8 to 9. At this point, you would split up and not see the rest of the employees the rest of the day, or you didn't know how many escorts that other person was doing. Or you saw Jay in the beginning of the day, but then you didn't see him until probably the next day you worked, or at the end of the day. And when I first came back, it was like, the first thing I said was like, hey, well, are we going to Starbucks? And he's like, oh no, we don't go to Starbucks anymore. It got too expensive. I'm like, of course, when you're buying Starbucks to 9 to 10 people, every single day, it can get very expensive. So, when as far as like the interaction at first, it wasn't too bad. I mean, there were still times to where during the escort, obviously stress takes over, and with the high intensity of just the job takes over. But I mean, Jay, and you could see on a lot of the videos, and obviously your audience could see in a lot of the videos, how he talks to the people driving and cutting into his escort, is how how he speaks to his employees,
Mm.
and you could hear a lot of that in the videos. You know, he's saying, hey, where are you going? Where the hell are you going? Or why are you doing that? Or you got to learn how to do this. You got to do that. You got to, you know, it's a very, very assertive way. Like,
Sure.
and it's something that I know you mentioned. I think I found the word for it. His presence and his demeanor is something obviously that's known in the police world is command presence,
Mm.
right? He has something of command presence to him that that really it's something that it comes from you. Have to, it's either trained or you're born with it, you know.
Right.
And I think he was born with it. You know, he was born with that command presence, and that's what makes people think like, oh, wait a minute, this guy's the real deal, you know, because his command's presence. But again, it got out of control. Like how he was treating his employees got a little bit out of control. Obviously, you could see that by his turnover rate, but how he was treating the people, you know, the drivers around him, the drivers in the procession, you could just see that it was wrong. It wasn't something that I was willing to be a part of.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the main reasons I started to kind of distance myself from the company and
Sure.
like, hey, you know, I don't want to be part of this.
Sure.
A lot of the videos that you see, you know, not only treating his employees, but what he was doing is not how we did things in the beginning. You know, and in his defense, to be honest with you, that's not how we did things. You know, him
Mm-hmm.
cutting in between cars and crossing double yellow lines and blowing through red lights, and that's not how we did things whatsoever. That is not how the company started. I could tell you that right now. But you know, throughout the years, he started getting more lenient on what he would do, and the same thing happened with his employees. He would
Right.
say, "Oh, you know, we would have some. We'll have somebody on that bike, you know, for without a doubt. You know, we will have somebody on that bike." And you know, people would come and go, and he knows that somebody would be right there waiting to get on the bike because it's something cool. I mean, it's something that he always used to say is like, you know, he has the coolest job in the world. He gets paid to ride a motorcycle.
Right.
You know, you can't argue with that. You know, you can't. I mean, you know, having my personal bike and you know, thanks to him, because to be honest with you, he was the one that actually paid for my motorcycle endorsement. But again, it's kind of cool to get paid to be riding a bike, so it's appealing. But his turnover rate, once you're there and you see how you get treated as an employee, how much you get paid, it's really not worth your life. You know, being on that motorcycle and doing what you do, very, very dangerous.
Sure.
So it's at that point, at first it's very, very appealing, and then it gets very, very sour once you're in there for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Understood. That's definitely unfortunate that it turned like that. To get off topic again,
Yeah,
and I do encourage my chat to let's not turn against each other. There's some people that are going a little hard against APR. If we could,
right.
let's all be nice here. So,
Yeah.
but something that APR brought up, and it's you know, it's worth asking. He is saying that, and it's about how you sort of parted ways with the company. There's something about you speeding, going 100 miles an hour, and then lying about it. Does that ring any bells?
Okay, so this confirms, and again, this is just my personal opinion.
Sure.
You know, you have your opinion. Everybody has their own opinion.
Sure.
This confirms that whoever this person is Jay. Nobody would have that information without it. The person that you spoke with on your live stream that was a current employee.
Right.
I didn't recognize their voice. I don't know who they are.
Got it.
They didn't seem to have specific information that you asked.
Sure.
So from what my opinion now, I believe that person that is commenting is Jay.
Okay.
Now, let's be real. If you look at a lot of the videos that that you see in real world police, and there's one that he shuts down I-95, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he specifically says, "All right, let's go. Let's get to 100." Right? I'm not sure if
I was going to bring that up. I was going to bring that exact thing up. Yes.
You've seen that, right?
Yes.
So it wasn't unusual for us to go those speeds. So for him to bring that up is kind of ironic because,
right.
You said that I went up to 100 miles an hour in a specific vehicle, but that's something that you encourage us to do,
That's exactly where I was hoping this would go.
Right. So again, that's something that hopefully to your viewers, it invalidates his statements because,
sure.
and again, I'm not trying to be mean to whoever it is or Jay, but at that point, like, why would you bring that up to discredit me when the evidence clearly shows that this is what you wanted, this is the vision that you want for your company.
Sure.
And again, it's, that's something that was definitely, it wasn't uncommon for us to do when it comes to those escorts, so it is what it is,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, I'm glad that got out there, because that was something you took it the exact place I was hoping it would go.
Outstanding.
Yeah. So perfect. I don't know that I have any other questions that I originally wanted to cover, although I'm more than happy to keep talking if there's anything else you want to discuss.
I mean, I'm not sure if you have any other questions about your viewers. I know there's a lot of stuff that it could be confusing. I mean, the internet is blowing up with this. I mean, I recently saw a video where it says that his nephew got arrested for the same thing, which the report that he's referencing to is actually Dillon, which is his brother. So
of course.
there's a lot of misinformation out there on the internet because
sure.
this is blown up so much and is being spread out so thin.
Right.
The only thing I would say to your viewers is that you are really a legit source of information because you do your research before you put anything out.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that I've seen from you has really been legit and has been truthful. So I applaud you for that because that's why I decided to reach out to you.
Sure.
Because of that. Again, because you're so legit in what you're trying to do, and you really hold an unbiased opinion on this. You actually tried to get his side of the story, and that's really awesome to do because there's nobody out on the internet trying to do that,
right?
But you. So that's something that I looked up to. So
sure.
That's why I wanted to get on your channel here. It's because that's something that I don't believe that I don't have any hate towards Jay. I don't have any hate towards MetroState, but when I went back, there's something that just didn't feel right.
Sure.
It really, really didn't feel right. Things have changed, and sometimes change is good, sometimes change is bad.
Yeah, absolutely. And I am anticipating a pretty major change in MetroState coming up. Let's assume that Jay is acquitted of everything. The charges don't go through. He gets to return to the company. I mean, if that happens, he's going to have to change the company because the police are going to be watching him like hawks.
Right.
As far as what is anticipated, it's anticipated that he's going to beat some of the charges, but not all of them. And some of these charges are pretty big and will incur time in jail. Now, APR has talked to me about that, and he said that they are working to make sure that the company will be stable if that happens. And we briefly discussed that in a stream. And I assume that will happen. I think that there are employees within the company that will be more than happy to adjust the way that they do the escorts. I think that Jay has maybe sort of put himself in this this box of what he thinks needs to happen, and isn't
Absolutely.
sort of looking outside that box to think, hold on, how can we improve what is happening, improve how we operate in conjunction with these issues that are happening, and how do we mitigate those issues. So I think that MetroState will survive, and I think
I
that
think so too.
yeah, because I mean it's a great idea for a company. I look at it and I go, oh, I would have never thought of making a company like that, but kudos to the people who did. Unfortunately, changes have to be made, but I look forward to seeing those changes made for sure. And I really hope for the best for that company, and I trust that justice, as it, I'm trying to figure out how to say this appropriately. I think that actions have consequences, and that
Correct.
certain actions that we've seen will incur certain consequences. But that doesn't mean I hate anyone involved in this situation, for sure. In the interest of fairness, there are definitely things I disagree with, and that I personally would not do, or I personally would not want to be a part of. But I believe that people can change, and I honestly hope that is something that happens. And while I've been rambling, the chat has come up with a few things.
Absolutely.
So we've briefly touched on with some other people that have called in and other conversations I've had throughout this whole sort of web of people that I talked to about this. Jay has talked about the company and the taxes for it, and he says that, oh, well, we shouldn't be taxed because in Florida, funeral homes don't get taxed, and things associated with funerals don't get taxed. Now, I've talked to other people who are like, no, technically MetroState is a third party vendor, and they do have to be taxed. And I'm not an expert in tax law by any means, but some of the things that people are trying to ask in the comments is, did you ever receive a W-2 or any other tax form for what you were paid?
No, so that's actually I forgot to mention that. At first we were paid in cash.
Sure.
So there was no W-2. There was no type of application or anything you had to put. It was actually all word of mouth at first, So, and then he recently, I think, right before I got back in 2017, he actually put like an employment section on his website, so you actually could put in an application or whatnot. But after that, so after I came back and saw some of the changes that happened, one of the significant changes when it comes to payment was that he would pay you as of a check.
Sure.
So it was a written check that he would give you. So it was never anything as far as you put in your W-2. So I could have never had like a direct deposit or anything like that. It was to be honest with you, back in the day, you worked and then you got paid for what you worked in cash.
Sure.
When I came back, it was you got a check the week after you worked. So if I work this weekend, so for example, today's Saturday, I worked today. I did 3 escorts today. I wouldn't get paid till next Saturday,
Right.
and then he would give me the check for what I worked the previous week. So that's how it worked. There was never any type of W-2 or anything like that. I don't know how his company pays taxes or anything like that. That was really none of my concern. Again, at that time, it was just me, young and dumb, just trying to make an extra buck on the weekends.
Right. That's fair. And as someone working in a very part-time capacity, I'm not sure you would even need a W-2 if you weren't a full-time employee. I honestly don't know how that works. I really, really don't. So for the people in the chat, I'm sorry, but that's outside of my expertise by quite a lot. I use TurboTax. They take care of it for me. I have no idea. I just go, yeah, I can put that number in. Sure, you guys, so on and so forth. Let me see. Yeah, I feel like that covers everything I want to talk about, and that doesn't mean that we can't do this again sometime. If anything else comes
Absolutely.
up, it's been very enlightening for me. You've definitely covered a lot of topics that I've been curious about. And the chat, I think we've gotten over most of the stuff in the chat that I feel comfortable asking. There's a lot of stuff in the chat that's a little either very aggressive or somewhat inappropriate, or is targeting people who aren't directly involved in this. And I do want to remind people that I'm not going after the family. I know that Dillon has done stuff. I'm avoiding that. If it isn't involved with MetroState, I'm avoiding it. I know what the deal was. We're not talking about that. I'm not talking about his parents. I'm not talking about his wife any more than the question I had about Jeremy's own actions that might have hurt her. And I encourage you guys to sort of not go after them. In fact, I do delete comments that discuss them because I just think that they're not. This isn't about them, and they don't have to be dragged into it. So, just as a reminder to chat, if we, please try to stay civil about this sort of thing. But as far as the interview, is there anything else before we end the call?
As a closing argument, I would say this company arose from a demand that the area that we live in had, because of certain policies that the law enforcement agencies put in place at that time.
Absolutely.
Okay, so I don't think that this company was specifically, put in place to, falsely impersonate a police officer. I don't think that was the intention whatsoever, and I want to get that out of the minds of the people. Mm-hmm. Again, this was a specific demand that, funerals had, escorts and protection, to a certain time by law enforcement, and that specific policy ended, and that demand of funerals still wanting this service, mm-hmm. It became high, and he took advantage of that. So, but I would say the moment that he decided to take advantage of the leniency of the specific departments out here, and he started putting sirens in his vehicles, which is strictly illegal, which happened, at the time that I was not there, and that was one of the reasons why I left. He started, doing things like going into red lights, which is not within the terms of this statute, and started doing things that clearly, violate Florida State Statute 316, mm-hmm. which is the traffic statute, is when he started getting a little bit overwhelmed, mm-hmm. and developed a specific style of doing things that were working, that kept the actual client happy, which was the funeral homes, and he kept on doing that. So again, I think it wasn't. This company wasn't built to impersonate, or that wasn't his deal. He had a business idea, which was a legitimate idea, and ended up costing him because of the way and the route that he took with it.
Sure, and I agree with that. Obviously, Jay has a way he wants to behave. We know that he wanted to be a police officer. He was in the that pre-police officer program, the Explorer program, right?
Right.
And you don't be part of that unless you're seriously considering being a police officer.
Correct.
Unfortunately,
and I know you covered that. You covered that as well. And you did some research on it, and it's true. It's part of the Venture Scouts. Yes. Which is, it's not directly under the Boy Scouts, but yeah, it's just a program that teaches young people between the ages of 16 and 21, who are interested in the field, and I was a police explorer as well.
Sure.
So that's what.
If I had known about the program, I probably would have been too.
Right. Exactly. Right.
So, absolutely. And he made a mistake, came back to bite him. He made a few more mistakes, came back to bite him. And he found a job that would allow him to sort of do something similar that he was legally able to do, Because
Correct.
obviously now there are limitations to what he can do in that sort of capacity. And I have no problem with that. I think kudos to him for figuring that out and for discovering that and for going through with it.
Absolutely.
It's just that there are issues that obviously need to be addressed. And I understand how those issues came about. And I think that it's not unreasonable for them to have come about. But right now, he's one of my concerns is that he is very against changing. One of the things that seems to be the problem is that people are like, look, we have to change. We're doing it wrong. And he's very resistant to it. He's saying, no, we've been doing this. This is okay. There's nothing wrong with this. To me, that's a problem, right? Because, okay, cool, you've been, understand how you got to this point, but now you've crossed the line. People are paying attention and they realize that you're doing it and they're going to ask you to not do it. And if that doesn't work, they're going to make you not do it through the application of law. Obviously, there are other companies that are also doing things wrong. It's just that they haven't necessarily recorded everything that they've been doing, so they're not the target right now. I don't see a reason why these other companies won't also be scrutinized. I just think that the police can only take things, one thing at a time, given the amount of evidence they have to sort through. The manpower might be lacking. Certainly now that people aren't even allowed outside, I don't know how it is for Florida. Here, we're basically on lockdown, more or less.
Same.
So I know that police departments everywhere. I have records requests I have all over the place that have slowed down to a stop, which is really frustrating. But I'm not against Jay. I'm not against MetroState. For those of you who think I am, I'm not on their side, but I'm not against them. So having you here on the stream to discuss some of these things has been incredibly helpful, I think, at least for me. I don't know what everyone else got out of it, but I definitely got some information that I was hoping to get. And I definitely thank you for being a part of this and for reaching out to me.
Absolutely. I thank you for having me on. It sheds another light to, what some of the questions that I saw and some of the concerns that people were talking about. And I'm the type of person, and I'd rather somebody know the truth than for them to kind of, come up with another, way of what they think happened. And I just wanted to let everybody know, as one of the persons that came on your show that has actually worked with them for more than your usual person, that MetroState's not what all you think it is. Like he said on his interview, the videos that come up on YouTube and online are edited to kind of make him look like he's a certain type of person.
Sure.
And anybody could do that, but everybody has their own perception about the world. So I kind of wanted to put my 2 cents in it, and hopefully people would understand that, it wasn't all what you think it is. And this company wasn't just what came about to impersonate police officers, because it really wasn't. It was a need that the community had, and he took advantage of the business opportunity that there was, So I just wanted to kind of point that out more than anything.
Absolutely. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss before we terminate this interview?
I think that is it. Thank you so much, Sergeant Bacon, for having me on here, and hopefully this is not the only time that we have
Absolutely. Email me again if you have anything else you want to bring up, and then if I have any questions I think you can answer, I'll definitely reach out to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. And that's the end of the call. Well, that was interesting. Some things I do want to say, because APR has been bringing it up. The Florida statute with the lights. They have purple and amber lights. And this is something that I brought up with APR before. Originally, I thought it was just... Originally, I was like, yeah, they can have purple and amber. And then I talked to Orange County Police, and they're like, no. One or the other. The statute says purple or amber. And I'm like, oh, okay, I was wrong. And then APR addressed this with me, and he said, no, we're allowed to do purple and amber. The Florida Highway Patrol, the state patrol says you can use both. I'm like, nah, Orange County wouldn't win. Nah, that's crazy. So I ended up contacting the Florida Highway Patrol, and they're like, yeah, we have no problem with having both. Okay. There is some confusion about that. So the statute is interpreted in two different ways. So in Orange County, they have it one way. Outside of Orange County, they might have it another. That's not great. That's obviously not great. But I don't know what the case law on that is. If anyone's ever brought it before a judge and said, which one is it? So is it enough that there is probable cause? Within Orange County, maybe. At least there's probably enough for the officer to have qualified immunity. So, yeah, I don't know. I know that I can tell you that Orange County says no. You can only have one color. And the Florida Highway Patrol says, no, we're fine with you having both. That's what I can tell you. So, the exact wording of the statute, I get the hearsay, Caleb. And there's a bit of delay between when your comments are coming on and when I see it. So I apologize for that. But having enforced statutes that use language like that, you'd think it'd be, it says purple or orange. It's very clear it's one or the other. That's not always how it's enforced. Sometimes purple or orange can be interpreted to mean you can have purple or orange, but there's no reason you can't have both. Often it will say, purple or orange or something similar, right? It'll say this or that, but not both, right? If they want to be not both, usually they'll clarify, but that's not always the case. And I don't know how Florida does that. I know each state has their own sort of set of laws and how that sort of thing is done. I never enforced law in Florida, which is why I'm being very vague about this. It's because this is an issue that absolutely can be a little vague and gray and fuzzy. So that's, Repo has put the statute, I assume that's the right statute, in the chat. So that's why I'm not giving a hard answer on that. Because, one, it could be interpreted either way. And two, agencies within Florida are interpreting it both ways. Now, for those of you who are watching after the fact, after the stream, and for those of you who are watching right now, this is the part where I sort of just start talking to the chat. So this is probably the part where it's going to get boring. If you're here to watch the interview is over. I'm so sorry. But ask me a question in the chat. I will answer what I can. And APR, I agree, or does not imply exclusivity. That's the exact point I'm trying to make. Although sometimes that is how it's interpreted. Some states have sort of stricter rules about that than others. I cannot tell you how Florida sort of feels about it. So, hello everyone. For those of you who donated, by the way, I'm so sorry. Usually I call you out and thank you, but we were in that interview. I stopped myself from saying some inappropriate things. Thank you so much for all of you that donated. You guys are amazing. That money, well, I keep saying that money is going to go towards the investigation into the bodies of Gary Ridgway. I can't do that at the moment. It's still going to be part of that, right? I'm going to use that for equipment. I have enough for a drone. You guys are incredible. Thank you so much. We're going to get some great aerial footage. And the next money is going towards a metal detector to sweep the areas and whatnot. The drone is so that I can make this more entertaining for you. It's not actually going to be used to find the bodies necessarily, unless I can hook up some sort of LiDAR to it, which seems unlikely because that stuff's incredibly expensive. But just so you know, in fairness and transparency, I want you guys to know where those donations go. Now, to answer your questions, we should get Jeremy to play War Thunder with us. So I've been playing War Thunder. I've gotten back into that with Devil93, who goes by a different name in my Discord. Speaking of my Discord, what a great transition. Is my Discord up? If you guys want to be part of that, let me link my Discord to you. It's called the Pork Powwow. I'm very proud of that name. I just think it's hilarious. Anyway, there's the Discord. That link is good for 24 hours. I generally only put it out during live streams. as sort of a reward for you guys being here. Jay Pavilion, you hold that thought. Now, War Thunder, we've been shooting down planes, World War II style, recently. So if any of you play War Thunder, we might have to get some sort of thing going for that, because it's tons of fun. I plan on doing some 5M role playing through GTA 5. 5M being sort of modded servers, and I'm gonna pretend to be a sovereign citizen and harass the police officers in that game. So anyway, back to Jay Pavilion 2. Jay Pavilion, you guys, I put him on, and I didn't even ask him. I'm so sorry if you were unhappy that the fact that I put you out there. Hold on. Let me see.
Call from
Hello?
Carlos.
To accept, press
Hello?
1. Okay.
Wait, my audio's
I
off.
sent the caller to voicemail. Goodbye.
Did that just did that just go to voicemail? I only got the second half of that. APR, if I was in Florida, I would come on an escort with you. I absolutely would. And I would document the bejesus out of that. Hold on. I was getting a call. I'm sorry, I didn't realize I was getting a call.
Call from
Carlos.
To accept, press 1. To send a voicemail, press 2.
Well, why not? Hello.
What's up, man?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Doing well. Technology is not my friend today.
Yeah.
I accidentally hung up on you earlier.
I tried to donate on your page,
Sure.
and it didn't go through on my iPhone. So I don't know if you have like a PayPal that you could post or something.
That is a
where
great
people can donate
question.
if it doesn't work. Yeah.
Guys, this was totally not planned, I promise. You are on my stream, by the way. I hope you don't mind.
No, yeah.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, I was commenting constantly.
Do I have a PayPal? I do not. I was thinking I'm planning on doing a GoFundMe. I'm gonna, be like, oh, Gary Ridgway, he murdered people here on this street, right? Like, oh, he's such a bad guy, and I'll put that video out, and it's so I can't obviously because I'm stuck at home or at work because I still have to work. But what I have,
I thought you should know. You should know that.
That's fine. So I appreciate you asking. I do have a Patreon, which I actually prefer because you actually get something from it, right? If you want to donate, it's $3, $4, $5, and $15. The 15 I kind of threw out there just in case people are like feeling real good about me. Absolutely, you don't have to do that. $3 will get you access to my scripts before they become videos, and then stuff that never becomes a video that I write and go, this is stupid. 4 gets you access to my videos before I do all the editing with the green screen and the stuff that I put in the background for information. So it's just like it gets edited, so it gets out all the stupid parts of me messing up, but it's just the green screen. $5 gets you blooper reels, which I have not been able to make yet. And then the $15, I share all the sort of insider notes about the Gary Ridgway thing. But I mean, that's all going to come out. That's for people who are want to be directly involved and support the channel a lot with that. That's by no means do you have to do any of that. I can put that information out on my YouTube channel later. I'll put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat because I still feel weird about asking you guys to give me money. Not that I don't appreciate it. Not that I don't appreciate it by any means.
Yeah, no, we just want to support what you're doing.
Sure. Yeah. If you guys are interested,
Especially when you do the Tiger King episode.
oh my God, you guys, I have got to do something about Tiger King. I have people like you need to do records request right now. Like you have to. We gotta get the inside information about the arrests and all that. I'm like, yes, I really really do. For those of you who haven't seen Tiger King, it's a wild ride. It is a wild ride. And if you have seen Tiger King, watch the interviews that David Spade is doing from his home while he's not doing. He's been interviewing a lot of the people who are involved, and they give a lot of information that was not seen on the show. So he talked to the guy who produced the whole thing, the one who ran the TV show that Joe Exotic did, and then who made the documentary afterwards. And the guy's like, look, there were things that we couldn't put in there just because it was too wild. There were things that we lost footage because our trailer was burned down and a lot of our footage was destroyed. There are reasons to suspect that Joe did it, but we can't actually say that because we can't prove it. But apparently there was footage of Joe just executing animals for fun. Like someone brought a horse to the zoo. It was like, oh, my horse is old. I can't take care of it. Can you? You have so much land and you know things about animals. He's like, he hugged her and said, yeah, leave the trailer. We'll take care of the horse. We'll make sure it's, we'll take it out to the pasture and whatever. We'll bring the trailer back to you tomorrow. And so the woman left, and Joe allegedly says to the producer, grab your cameras, watch this. Goes over to the horse, pulls out his gun and just shoots it right in the head and feeds it to his tigers.
Oh man,
it's bonkers.
Let the tigers. I thought you were gonna say he let the
tigers get it. Yeah, no, I thought that's where it was going too, but no, he just shot it, and apparently he'd do that for fun. And in the show, you see him just firing off weapons into the air for fun to scare people. So I wouldn't put it past him to do this, but according to this guy, he's like, you have no idea. Like, you saw what you saw, but you didn't live it. We lived it for a year. And it was just the guy apparently had to go to a psychiatrist for in admit himself to a hospital, the producer, for a week, if I remember correctly.
The guy with the hat, the older guy. Okay.
Yeah. I believe so. He had a hat. Yeah. And he's like, I had to admit myself to the hospital because I was just so messed up after living this life and dealing with this guy and seeing what I was seeing. Like I couldn't. It was just mind-blowing. So.
Jeez.
But yes, absolutely.
Anyways, man, yeah, just wanted to put that out there about that I was trying to donate. I went through all the stuff that it tells you to do to donate on the YouTube, and it didn't work, so I just wanted to.
Well, perfect. I'm glad you brought that up. Now, while you're here, you worked with MetroState, right? Just a couple times?
Yeah, I was a MetroState officer.
Yes. Yeah. No, I do want to, guys, motor officer, not police officer. They can call themselves officer just fine.
MetroState motor officer.
Is there anything that you want to add to what was said?
Just that's my thing, is just putting that out there, not to blame the employees. A lot of people are like, oh, don't use names or whatever. I don't think anybody should be afraid of the consequences. That's I don't know. Law enforcement's not out to get people. Mm-hmm. I think they know what's going on.
Sure. Now, my concern about names is that other people would be out to get them, and I've seen this happen. Right. Not necessarily with Metro. I mean, I've seen it happen a little bit with MetroState, but my dealings with First Amendment auditors, sovereign citizens, is that if they have a group behind them, they will sometimes, not all of them, but it's happened to me, they'll go out of their way to try to screw that person over. They'll call, places of employment, friends and family, and they'll just harass people. And so in the interest of making sure that doesn't happen, I have no problem not giving out names. Now, if people want to give out their names, by all means. But if they say, hey,
that makes sense.
I don't really want my name out there. And APR knows the person. And they said, oh, yeah, this person is this person. Which I deleted their information because, again, they didn't really want to be outed like that. But in the interest of that, if that's the request, I have no problem, making that happen.
Yeah, that's just that, man. that was basically my like strong thought, was just for people to know that you know it's not like anybody that works for him necessarily was a bad person. It's just that you think, you know what I mean? Like that's a huge thing too. Like how can you pretend that you're a ranger, and how is there less repercussion for that than imitating a police officer? Like don't get me wrong, police officers, you know, putting their life on the line too, but like you're saying you're the freaking like similar to like Navy SEALs, right?
Sure.
I understand the Rangers are like the, you know, you're saying like you're this top dog military person.
I can actually answer that. Why it's a bigger deal. So, with impersonating a police officer, you are basically pretending to have the authority to make someone do something under threat of legal repercussion. So that's a really big deal. Right. So if I'm like, I'm a police officer, go, you know, put your hands on that car and wait there for an hour, right? Well, you're detained, and they do that. Well, now you're violating their constitutional rights by unlawfully detaining them. That's false imprisonment. Depends on the state. They're called different things, but I would consider that false imprisonment and acting under color of law and impersonating an officer, right? And that's not something that I've seen anyone in MetroState do. That's just an example of if I pretend to be a police officer. I don't enforce law right now, but if I pretended to be in a law enforcement capacity and I was ordering people around, and believe me, I could make it real convincing. I lived that life. I could do it again. I'd be violating constitutional rights. Yeah.
Most people could. Like, you can imitate. It's not, you know what I mean? We've all seen cops.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we know. Yeah. Most people could do it, but if you're not a complete dirtbag, then you don't do that.
So that's why that's such a big deal. Now, as far as stolen valor, impersonating a soldier, it used to be a lot stricter until there was some criminal case against someone who's claiming to be a soldier, and he basically used the defense, well, I have the First Amendment right to freedom of expression. This is how I'm expressing myself, and I'm protected because reasons. And they basically, the Supreme Court, whoever reviewed this, basically had to go, yeah, that's kind of fair, actually. So it used to be if you just impersonated a soldier for personal gain, it was illegal. But they had to sort of take that away and say, if you are claiming that you earned any specific medals for valor, a Bronze Star, a Silver Star, a combat infantryman badge, that sort of thing. If you're claiming to have very specific awards, you're wearing very specific awards, and you're doing either of those things for personal gain, now that's stolen valor, which is illegal under federal law. So the reason it's less strict is because a soldier doesn't have the authority over people that a police officer would, thanks to the Posse Comitatus Act prohibits soldiers from acting in law enforcement capacity while on active duty status, with very few exceptions. National Guard can be, I know, it's weird, National Guard can be used, kind of, but there are still limitations. As far as, I mean, I almost got mobilized to the Mexican border a year or so ago when there was that convoy moving up through Mexico. And there was a lot of concern because they're like, well, what are we going to do? Yeah, we're military police. We can't enforce law on people on American soil outside of the federal bases within which we have jurisdiction. And basically, there was some sort of executive order, I believe, signed that said, oh, yeah, right here, they have the authority of police officers along this border for this event. Now, I was never mobilized. Another unit, like very close to ours, got sent. Same base. They got sent instead. It was we knew it was going to be one of us. We didn't know which one. I ended up not going. I'm kind of disappointed because that would have been, a pretty crazy experience. Apparently, it was actually just really boring because nothing actually happened. But that was like people were incredibly, like, the news stations were incredibly excited, some in a good way, some in a bad way, about the fact that the police or the military was being allowed to enforce law. The federal standing army was being allowed to enforce law. So no, the soldiers generally don't have, outside of a military base, they do not have authority over people, which is why it's less of a big deal. Now, to me, it's still a big deal. it's not something I can't get over, but it's definitely something I don't support. But it really comes down to what authority either one would have over someone.
I gotcha.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah,
I guess I thought it was like the police are like the teachers and the military is like the principal,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
I mean, that's...
A lot of people do think that. It's definitely understandable.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to pull over. The special forces are trying to pull you over.
Yeah.
Or do whatever they want.
Yeah, if a soldier tries to pull you over and they're not police, don't let them pull you over. If you're, on a military base, it depends on the base, but if you're just driving down the highway and some guy's like, I'm a I don't know, a specialist, something stupid. Pull over. I have a bone to pick with you. Do not pull over. And if they start getting aggressive, call the police to your location, and they'll help take care of it.
Man, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
Yeah. It's still it's too bad. That's too bad. It should be like a huge punishable offense.
I wouldn't be against it, but I understand that the constitutional rights that are involved, and do I get upset that people commit stolen valor? Of course. Do I get upset when someone wears the uniform and pretends to be a soldier and they're not technically committing stolen valor? Yeah, I still get upset. That's frustrating to me. Someone who put in the work is not easy. There are jobs from the military that are simple, but it's not easy.
No.
If any of you are thinking about going to the military and they talk to a recruiter, the recruiter will tell you, "Oh yeah, it's the simplest job. All you do is follow orders." Okay, but there's a mental and physical toll of waking up at 5 a.m. and exercising and being yelled at, and then you don't go to bed you don't get released until 8 p.m. sometimes, right? There's a mental and physical toll. Not necessarily a challenging, but it's a thing. So like having experienced that, and then people claim like, "Oh yeah, I was Delta Force Navy SEAL, Ranger, Cadet, Lieutenant," and it's like, stop. Like, you have no idea. It's very frustrating. But I digress. I'm rambling.
It is frustrating. I have spent time on some, not lots of time. I had never served, but I've done jobs on military bases. And those are the most polite places in the that I've been.
There's some very friendly people. Everyone's always very surprised.
It's awesome. You drive away from, even if it's hard, brutal work. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've driven away from military bases like, damn, that's awesome. Yeah. That's awesome that's who those people are.
Yeah.
They're so just polite and posed. The opposite of Jay. Yeah. The opposite of that.
Well, I won't go into that. I will tell you, there are soldiers that are very aggressive, but it's...
Oh, yeah, no, I've met those too. Yeah, for sure.
But
for sure.
For those of you who haven't been to a military base, and those, like, the people I talked to, they're like, I just went to a military base for the first time. They were so polite. No one threatened to shoot me. Like, why would they threaten to shoot you? Like, well, I don't know. They're soldiers. That's what they do. Like, no, stop. They're people.
Yeah, like a J character on the military base is like 1 in 100.
Yeah, it's
people
less
are
common.
so nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. People are nicer than like being in a regular town.
Yeah. I can't disagree with you necessarily.
That's my experience. That's one base that I've been to, but
I think people are more capable of becoming very intense on a military base. For the most part, they're pretty chill. Compared to like a normal town, right? A normal town, people might be a lot angrier more often, but on a military base, I think they can become a lot more aggressive than you'd find with a general civilian population.
I guess I've never seen that.
Yeah. Oh no, I've screamed at people. You know what? It's story time. Let's tell a story. I was doing. Just because you brought up a conversation reminds me of this, and the ability. Sure. You guys know me as calm Sergeant Blue Bacon, just chill, right? And even in my Stolen Valor video, I wasn't like screaming or anything. I was definitely agitated, but I was doing what was it called? It's basically it's vehicle inspections at the gates, and I was the sergeant in charge of that for a couple months. and we were at this gate. It was January, and we didn't want to be there any more than anyone else wanted to have their vehicle searched. But, whatever. We had fun. And there was this parking lot next to the gate that was on the base property. And some private, some PFC, like they were speeding in there. I remember it was a blue hatchback sedan. And it was a gravel parking lot, and they drifted the back end of the car, like into a parking spot. And just spraying rocks everywhere. And I was just sort of like, are you kidding me? I am in uniform with my police vest and everything, like right next to this parking lot, 30 feet from this. And I went over to this guy, and I got my knife hand out, and I was just screaming at him, like, are you kidding me? I probably was swearing up a storm. Like, I am right here. Like, what the hell are you thinking? He's like, yeah, like, you do that again. I swear to God, I'm doing things right now, but I see you do that again, I'll arrest you. And I'm like, snap, what do I arrest him for? I'm like screaming at this dude, like, I have no idea where I'm going with this. Like, for reckless endangerment because you have a passenger, and don't even get me started. Don't make me think of what else I'm going to do. Like, I have no idea what else. I'm just yelling at this dude because are you kidding me? He's like, yeah, get out of here. Like, and he ran away. I was just screaming at this dude. And I go back, and like the rest of the day, I'm like, remember that time I screamed at that dude? Oh, and like the two soldiers that were with me were like, damn, dude, like, I've never seen that. I'm like, you don't, like, I'm a calm guy, but if you're acting a fool in my face, oh boy. Yeah. So like soldiers, we'll go 1 to 100 real quick, but generally it sort of hovers around 15. We're pretty chill.
Yeah.
For the most part.
Oh yeah. Definitely. Yeah, I've seen some agitation, but seems like that's just been my experience with military people. Is they're like that was actually my first suspicion. That's what made I was like suspicious before, and that was why. Yeah.
Just that
because, like, I've never met military that are super mean and aggressive.
They're so intense. Yeah.
Yeah. Louis C.K. has a bit about that.
Does he?
Yeah,
check that out.
He's talking about how soldiers are, like, he says he's on an airplane and a soldier walks in and there's like an extra flight attendant, super polite, he's like, can I help you, ma'am? Help you put that up, excuse me? They're not like, F you, I have a gun, I'm a soldier,
Yeah,
and that's like,
in basic training for us, I'll tell you where I think that comes from is you are screamed at and you're just destroyed. The point of basic training is to break you down and then build you up into what they want, right? So you're yelled at, and for Devil 93, when you go through, the best advice I can give you is that they're going to yell at you. This is someone who's planning on going through, I think, Marine boot camp. They're going to make you feel like you're garbage, and they say you can't stop messing up. You can't stop messing up. Oh, we're going to punish everybody, right? Understand that when they punish everybody, they had planned that the night before or the morning of that day. Like, it's not because of you. It's because they were going to, like, there's no way they're not going to find someone. Sometimes you get blamed for it, but they planned that smoke session. So that's the biggest advice I can give you as far as sort of staying in the game mentally. It's not your fault. They planned this before it ever happened. Now, back to what basic does is it breaks you down, it builds you back up, and it sort of makes you a little more humble. Not everyone, but they're very, very strict. Like, you will be polite, you will be professional, and you get into that mindset. And it doesn't stay with everyone, but then all of a sudden, it will change someone, and it will make them a little more polite and a little more professional. Being screamed at for 6 months will sometimes do that. And being molded into a fine young soldier for America, right? So it's
hell yeah.
You do see that. You do see that a lot, and especially like once you have a rank structure and respect is legally required among certain individuals, right? If I'm talking to a captain, I have to be respectful. I'm required by law to be respectful. Anyone higher ranking than me, right? And that you sort of get into that mentality of treat people with respect, because with civilians. On military base, I have no idea what rank a civilian is, right? So it might be a lieutenant. Even if they're younger than me, it might be a lieutenant. And if I am disrespectful towards them, I'm in a lot of trouble. So that translates into dealing with civilians outside of military base, where you're sort of used to being respectful towards civilians because you have no idea what rank they are. And now all of a sudden you're dealing with civilians that are off the base. Why stop there? And then you sort of become in, like with, I guess, what Louis C.K. was talking about, the person being like, can I help you with that? You just sort of, in many cases, just become a nicer person. And a lot of people don't realize that. They're like, oh, you know, these battle-hardened, trained people, brah. And yeah, there are soldiers like that. But there's some really decent people, and it really changes a lot of people.
Yeah, for sure. They usually, like, when you find out that somebody is former special forces or former military, they're usually like the nicest guy. Like, they're bubbly and funny and just have a good vibe. And then you find out they're former military. You're like,
yeah,
really?
Like, oh.
Wow. You're like the nicest, calmest guy. You know, that's usually what I've encountered.
Yeah.
And I've happened to have a lot of friends that way throughout the year, just by coincidence.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me suspicious. I was suspicious before.
The fact that he was that aggressive.
It's like I've never encountered that. But then again, I've never met somebody that's a Ranger, you know, or a Navy SEAL or anything like that.
Oh, there's some Rangers that are pretty intense that I don't much care for.
I actually found out later on the Joe Rogan podcast when he was talking to a Navy SEAL that the people that have the least PTSD and stuff are the special forces.
Really?
He said that it's less traumatic for military that have like a plan, like their job is they're going to go in there, kill these guys, arrest this guy, whatever. You know what I mean? They're going in, they're doing the job, they're getting out.
I believe that actually.
The PTSD comes from the guys that are sitting around at the base,
who are surprised,
and then all of a sudden the bombs dropping. You know, all of a sudden shit's breaking loose.
That makes sense, actually.
That's what he was saying. Yeah, that like having the plan, like already, you know, death being a likely part of the plan and stuff.
Well, for us, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that there's less PTSD with those people, with special forces.
No, I see, like special forces and Rangers as well. They train, and the ones that are doing actual missions, like here's the compound, here's where we enter, here's what we do. They know they're going to get shot at. They know what they're going to do. I think a lot of PSD comes from not knowing what's going to happen. For military police, one of our main combat roles is, I mean, we do everything, but one of the things that we train for quite a bit is doing convoy security. So if we need to move things from point A to point B, from FOB 1, FOB being forward operating base, to FOB 2, they need to be driven. And so we provide the security in a combat zone, among many, many other things that we do, to include high-value target acquisition, so on and so forth. We're not going to get into that. But a lot of military police come back from combat with difficulty driving because they're so used to being hyper alert and hyper vigilant when it comes to IEDs and roadside bombs. And the ones who have experienced the hidden ones, they're still expecting, even in the States, they're still expecting something to blow up whenever they're driving. And so they'll see a box in the road and they'll swerve and hit their brakes and do all sorts of crazy things. And that's technically PTSD. And then for infantry who are sitting around holding an area, right? They've gone to a town and they're securing it. They don't know where they're going to get attacked from. So when that attack starts, that can be very traumatic because the brain thinks, oh, now I have to be ready for this all the time. I always have to be ready for these types of attacks for survival. And that's where the PTSD will come from. I'm no psychiatrist or psychologist, but this is how it's been explained to me. I never really thought about that. As special forces, they're not usually surprised when they're doing their ops because they've trained so hard to do that. So I've never even really put that through my head.
Yeah, you can look it up. It's it's when he interviews Navy SEAL, I think you'll find it that way.
Absolutely, Joe Rogan's got some good stuff. Yeah,
a lot of good stuff. I think so. He's pretty non-biased.
Yeah, he has some. I don't know. There's a good
yourself.
I try to be. People don't always agree with the topics I cover. I feel like that's like Joe Rogan. Like I don't always agree with his. Oh, go ahead.
No, what were you gonna say?
I was gonna say I don't always agree with the topics he's talking about, but like he does seem to be pretty unbiased. Well, he appears to try to remain neutral. I'll say that. And I haven't seen like tons of his stuff, but I've seen enough to be like, oh yeah, cool.
I used to not like him for some reason.
I think
I started doing what I do now. I drive, so that's all I do. I listen to podcasts. Denver's huge, so I listen to from job to job.
Good, yeah, no, it's a good listening thing. Just like this, folks, is a great listening stream. So
it is, man. I get the notification on my phone when you're doing one. I tune right in.
Oh, good. Yeah. So for those of you who are like, "There's nothing going on in your background," I'm sorry to hear that. You're right. There is nothing going on in my background right now. But yeah, Alex Jones. Alex Jones was on Jay Pavilion 2. Is saying that Alex Jones was on the Joe Rogan podcast. If you haven't seen that one, oh, it's so good. And I have a video on Alex Jones about his toothpaste shenanigans.
He knows so many things.
Alex Jones?
Yeah, he's so eccentric.
He's
and
pretty
nutty.
intense.
Maybe not everything is right, but he's pretty smart. He knows a lot of things.
He gets a lot wrong, but I think he doesn't articulate it poorly. I'll say that.
I wasn't a fan until I actually listened to that interview with Joe Rogan and Alex Jones. I think it was the more recent one.
Yeah.
Where they had fought before. They had had a disagreement before, and this was their like coming back, like becoming friends again, basically. And that was eye-opening. The conversation got really deep.
There's I forget the guy's name. There's the Joe Rogan, and now we're just, folks, if you're still watching the stream, this is just us having a conversation at this point. So don't you be complaining to me later like, oh, like 2 hours in, it got super boring. I warned you, all right? I warned you before this phone call even happened that this is just the part where I interact with people.
Carol Baskins.
Oh, Carol Baskins. All right, who thinks that Carol Baskins killed her husband? I'm not gonna give my answer, but I have some opinions about it.
Did you see like the comparisons between the Carol Baskins husband and the investor guy? They actually look pretty similar.
No.
There's people saying that the husband faked his death and that he's the investor guy with the Ferrari and stuff, with the open relationship.
Oh.
They
that
look
would be
similar. Fun. If you look at a picture of her, they look similar.
I'll have to look into
that.
I did not. I've never thought about that. Oh, Jay Pavilion. I'm sorry. I got distracted. For those of you who haven't seen this video, the Jeremy DeWitt EDM remix, go watch it. It's incredible. Love it. Anyway, that's what I was going to say. Now I've said it. Carol Baskins. I'll tell you what.
Carol Baskins.
Carol.
All right. Okay, man. Sorry. I'm sorry for.
No, you're good. You're good.
Half an hour of your time. I appreciate you. I didn't expect you to actually answer, but
yeah, I just like, I'll take the phone call. The only people with this number are the people I've talked to on this stream, so I figured it'd be one of you.
Yeah, that'll be that conversation with Photo should be interesting. I don't know if you're watching the This should be a pretty interesting interview.
Mm-hmm. One can only hope.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh yeah, we definitely did security also.
Yeah.
Definitely bounced. I definitely worked at bars.
Sure. Sure. That doesn't.
But yeah. All right, man. Have a great night.
All right, you as well.
That was my main thing, is post something so that people can donate if it doesn't work.
Sure, and I appreciate you bringing that up.
Yeah. All right, man. Sweet. Have a great night. Thank you.
You as well.
All right, bye.
I can't hang up. He hung up. I can't hang up because my Discord's getting in the way. Yeah, that was fun. All right. Glad that happened. And yeah, fun little conversation. Rest of you in the chat, I got nothing else going on for the next few minutes. Ask away. Ask some questions. Dancing Bananas, I agree. For those of you who are reading the chat, contextually. Obviously, out of context, that makes no sense. The comment was I should put dancing bananas behind me, and I agree. I absolutely should. I'm going to work on that. It probably won't happen, but I'm going to look into it. Yeah, so if you guys do want to donate and support the channel, that feel free not to. It's entirely up to you. I'm not going to beg for your donations yet. But I love it. I love that people are donating during the stream. That's incredible. Generally, the purpose of that is so that I see the comment, and that's fair. I do try to read the comments as this is happening and try to type to you guys while we're talking. So it's not necessarily necessary. If you feel the need to do it because you really want to get your message out, feel free. I'm not going to complain. But yeah, so this stream, you're going to see me just a lot, which is me just trying to read the comments and listen to what he was saying at the same time. So that's going to be fun watching my face look that stupid. But I digress. So if you want to support the channel and you're donating to get a message out during the stream, great. But if you want to actually get something out of it, I do have the Patreon, and I do post a lot of my sort of extra stuff. So if you're feeling like giving money anyway, you can cancel anytime. It's $3, $4, $5, or $15 a month. Each tier gets you the tier below it, as I shamelessly advertise my own stuff. So the $15 one I sort of threw in there just for fun. I'm amazed that people actually have chosen it. But I put out my personal thoughts on the Ridgeway case, where I'm going to look. My troubles with law enforcement with getting these records, the cost of getting those records through civilians that have already requested it and now selling that information, hiccups that I've had with my research, that sort of thing. If you want to be super involved, that's the place to go. But if you want bloopers, that's the $5. I don't have any bloopers yet, so feel free to hold off on that. $4 gets you videos before they go on the main channel. It's just because I haven't finished editing them, but it still gives you the content. That's where you'll find my Jeremy DeWitt interviews before they're up. It won't have him in his little... He was real mad I used his mugshot. Sorry about that. If you've seen the interview with Jeremy DeWitt, I've got a picture of him with a helmet over it. And it's just because I needed a placeholder. And I thought this will be fun. This will be a neat little... people will be amused. And I use his mugshot because that's the best sort of straight-on photo I could find of him. And nothing against him. I'm not trying to be disrespectful towards him. But that's the best one I had. I had this idea. I'm going to roll with it. He was not happy with that. He emailed me and was kind of mad. But I'm sorry to hear that. I'm kind of mad that he is claiming to be a soldier when he wasn't. So I guess we're even. J Pavilion, thank you so much for that donation. And Nathan, you guys are amazing. Thank you so much. I got you, Taylor. I got you. Taking my headphones off. Okay, so yeah, $5. Now we're just going into this as I don't know. You tell me to shut up if you want. $5 of bloopers. There are no bloopers. $4 gets you the videos before they come out on the main channel because they're not done being edited, and then $3 gets you the scripts before they're even made into videos, and some of them haven't even been made into videos and won't be made into videos. But if you guys go to my Discord, and that is in there somewhere, and I'll link that again. Nope, that is not it. That's my... Nope, stop it. If you go to my Discord, ask questions. Some of those questions get made into scripts that never become videos. So if you have a topic that you want me to discuss, people who are in my Discord can confirm this. I do go in depth for certain topics. So that's my ramble. That's my stuff I have going on right now. If you want to be involved in all of that, because you guys are pretty great. It's good stuff. What are your questions? Hit me with some questions, guys. Hit me with that nonsense. For those of you who are just joining, the interview has already been done, by the way. Feel free to watch that at your leisure. Now we're just talking to the chat. Welcome. Thanks for showing up. Feel free to ask questions unrelated to anything that happened in this video. I got a little bit of time. Why not? I'll bumble my way through some answers. Am I going to be on War Thunder tonight? You bet. After the stream is over, I'd be down to do something. You know what I'm going to do? Since you guys, this is late in the stream. No one's actually going to see it after the fact. I'm going to tease something to you guys. This is something I've been holding close to the chest as I've been seeing if it was possible. A MetroState musical. Just one song. Not an entire musical, but a musical recap of the situation so far. I don't know if anyone would be interested. I have my desk right here. Under my desk, by the way, is a piano. I dabble in music. So it was suggested to me, hey, do a musical number about DeWitt. I've written it. One person has seen the lyrics so far and has approved it. We're going to keep those lyrics secret. Don't you be sharing it. They know who they are. But, yeah. It's going to be a good time. Teasing that. All right. As far as when I go ride with MetroState, I would absolutely do that if I was in Florida. Just to get some footage of it and be like, this is how they're doing it now. This is how they're doing it when they know that they're being, recorded. And I'm not saying that would be exactly, that would be necessarily the normal way that they're doing things, because obviously if there's a person with the camera, they might try to behave themselves. But it'd be interesting. I would do it. Why what? I see Stacy saying why. Mark Christopher, the FBI agent, is I assume you're talking about the one that got arrested in Franklin County. I'm gonna be doing a video on that, hopefully, because that, for those of you who don't know, there's a video of Florida deputies, detaining an FBI agent under the suspicion that he is impersonating an agent. And it's very interesting, and it amazed me how many people were disagreeing with the police officers on this. Now, I've worked with federal agents before in multiple different agencies. Never FBI, but CID, some minor interactions with NCIS, a little bit with ICE, or ICE, depending on who you talk to, and a little bit with Secret Service, which sounds way more exciting than it was. It was about counterfeit money. It wasn't like presidential anything. I've worked with a lot of agencies, and I'm not saying like I was on any of their cases, but I've coordinated with quite a few of them. And there are ways that agencies tend to behave themselves and conduct their investigations, because it turns out there are good ways of investigating that are effective, and bad ways that are less effective. And of course, it kind of makes sense that you'd want to use the good ways, and so a lot of the agencies have very similar ways of doing things. Not exact, but similar. So this FBI agent was doing things way outside of the norm, and this deputy was, no, I don't think you're who you say you are. And I would have thought the same thing personally. So I definitely want to go over that. So it's a whole thing. Just because people are like, no, there's a lot to that video. So it's going to be a longer one compared to my normal ones. Repo Man, if I had any $100 bills lying around, I could tell you. I actually do know which one it is, but it starts with a, wait. It isn't. Hold on. No. There isn't a president on the... I feel like you're trying to trick me. It's Benjamin Franklin. Benjamin Franklin wasn't a president. Was he? I'm going to feel real stupid if he was. Don't you play me like this. I feel like this is a trick. Anyway. All right, I got it right. All right, chat's coming in. I'm probably like, you're probably getting whatever I'm saying 20 seconds after whatever you're saying. Anyway, but I digress. So, what are your questions for me? Devon Bay. I mean, I could cover Devon Bay at some point. I know some people have said like, no, I'm sick of Devon Bay. I don't want to talk. I want no more content. I don't know. Yeah, well, okay, look, J Pavilion, I'm going back to the chat. Yes, I am doing a Jeremy DeWitt song, and I was planning it, and I had started it before I even saw yours. So, shame on you for beating me to it. I saw it, I'm like, I was going to be the first. But yours is great, so I can't even be mad. Holt's Claw, I have no idea what that is, so I have very few thoughts on it. Michael Julian, the interview is over, but you will be able to watch this after the fact. It was some good stuff. Some people thought it was boring, but we got information that was good to have. Yeah, you stole my thunder, J Pavilion. It's fine. Oh, what about Patrick? Patrick Canberra? You guys see him in the chat, like losing his mind about us, like, oh, you're all unconstitutional, bootlickers, whatever. He's been on my channel before, spouting his nonsense, and you notice that he was not interested in debating me directly. Surprise, right? I would have absolutely done it. I'm J Pavilion, not J Pavilion. I'm sorry. I just saw your name and said it. Gary, if I feel so stupid now. Gary, if you're watching this, which you probably aren't, because why would you be? I'll take you on directly. Guys, if you see his comments in my videos, I encourage you to politely request that he comes on live stream so we can discuss various topics. Be nice. This isn't a MERB, send out the hounds, go mess this person up type request. This is just, look, if you see him and I don't, politely ask him. But I digress. I'm hoping to have another conversation, another live stream, possibly tomorrow, with someone who has interacted with MetroState, not as an employee, but as like a more of a witness victim. They were in this video earlier in the chat, so I have to confirm with them that tomorrow works. But I've been trying to set something up, and that's my fault, not them. They've been very like, oh, let's do this. I'm like, I can't. So that's gonna happen. But oh no, get out of here. If you guys are getting out of here, this is just the part where I just sort of ramble to the chat. This is after the fact. I'm just here to have a good time. Let me see. Where was I? Yeah, sorry. I knew there's something like Angela, thank you so much. That's where I was going. You donated, and I saw it, and I was in the middle of a ramble. So, Patty Mayo. I can address Patty Mayo. I mean, we got to do a stream about Patty Mayo one of these days, of course. I mean, he's fun to watch. It's just disappointing that it's fake. Because if it was real, there's that guy who's like, "Don't tase me. My safe word's pineapple." I love that. It kills me, and it's very frustrating to know that it isn't real. because I want that to be real. I want that to be a real person. Ah. What? Oh, yeah. So, merchandise. I've been compiling a list of things I would think would be fun on a shirt. One of them is just basic counters to sovereign citizen arguments, like real basic stuff. I just wrote down people die in Florida. Or what was it? No, a lot of people die in Florida, as a quote from this stream. Yeah, a lot of people die in Florida. Someone mentioned that would be looking on a shirt. I digress. Be a fun one. I have a plaque here somewhere from when I was in the CID unit. That's like, thank you for your 2 years, whatever. And then in quotations, let me tell you a story, because I was known for going off on tangents. Even then, yeah. Do you think? Oh, here's a thought. Why doesn't DeWitt move up to? I think Patty Mayo's up in Oregon. DeWitt should go to Oregon, work for Patty Mayo. He'd do well. He would do well on that show, if Patty Mayo's even still doing it. But oh, Chris Hansen. Yeah, Chris Hansen. What happened with him? What was he arrested for? Jack Reacher was a better MP. You're not wrong. I mean, it's not how it works. Jack Reacher is not how MPs work, but I'm sure he's better at it than I am. He's still active. Okay. Good old Patty Mayo, still doing his thing. Ah, okay, bad checks. That's right. I thought it was something financial. I do love me some To Catch a Predator. Is that Chris Hansen? Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator, right? I was getting confused with the guy from America's Most Wanted. Yeah, Chris Hansen's To Catch a Predator, or whatever he has now. I love that show. I didn't like it when I was younger, but now, having been involved in sting operations, they do it so well. What did Patty do with Jake Paul? What happened? I don't know. I'm not a fan of Jake Paul. I don't think. If he's who I think he is. I don't know. I don't pay much attention to that. Jake Paul. The Pauls. It's a whole thing. To Catch a Frauditor. That's what I should do, is I just have a similar thing where I just go and confront sovereign citizens. We dress up a police station like it's a normal building, and we get them inside, and then we tear down all the fake walls. It's a police station. Go, look where you are, the hall of the enemy. Like, what do you got to say? I don't know. It wouldn't work as well. It wouldn't. Hold on. Wait. Chris Hansen's a bootlicker? I'd like some more information on that. Is it because he works with police to catch pedophiles? There's a lot of dead people can complain to me like, there's so much dead air. Yeah, 2.5 hours in. I'm so sorry. I'm just reading your comments. This is the part where I just read comments and discuss things with you. But there is that delay, so I'm sorry about that. Human beings' life completely irreversibly destroyed in front of the world. Yeah, I know. Look, it's To Catch a Predator did quite a number on that sort of type of thing, right? Where people were like, "Oh, this is what happens when I'm caught. Oh, this is bad." It's my problem with it is that it's made it difficult for people who are sexually attracted to children. I'm going to be very cautious about this conversation. To get mental help. The ones who are like, I never ever want to be involved with a child, someone under the age of whatever, at any point in my life. Never. However, I have these feelings. I don't know what to do, right? And I commend them for acknowledging it and for trying to seek help. But from what I've looked into this, someone brought it up to me, or there's an article that was shared. I don't remember what it was, where it was this guy who's like, I am technically a pedophile. I've never acted on it. I've never been arrested. I've never done anything. But I have these thoughts and these attractions. I have tried to get help to fix it. No one will help me because I'm basically kicked out of every psychologist's office when I say what the problem is. They are not willing to help me. And that is a shame because obviously we don't want these people to act on it and we need to get them help to make sure that they don't. But people are so disgusted by them, even in the profession that is there to help. And maybe this has changed since then, that they are not able to get it. And I think that that show certainly doesn't help. I love the show. I'm not going to say I don't love the show. I love the show. But I wish there was more help for people going through that before they commit any overt acts about it, so that we wouldn't have to have a show like that. I regret the fact that we have to have it. I mean, we don't have to have a show. I regret the fact that there are enough people out there that there is a show about that. As much as I'm entertained by it, I'd rather not have the show and not have pedophiles than have pedophiles and the show. I should do some Ridgeway shirts to get off a that long topic. The sheriff. Ha! Of course, it's fake with Jake Paul. Of course it is. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah, I talk more than you do. Well, that's because I'm in front of the camera and people expect me to talk. You see? Yeah, see? Raided Jake Paul's house. Okay, I'm going to have to find that. Just for funsies. Not now. I'm going to do that on my own time. But I digress. Well, with that, though, I feel like I should be getting out of here because I got some War Thunder to play. I don't know if my War Thunder teammate's still in here. But, yeah, quick. Send me your questions. You got 30 seconds. Grumble. Bait car is fun. I'll give you that. Bait car is fun. I love when they realize it's a bait car. Like, oh no, like we stole a car and it's a bait car. Like, yeah. What do you think? I should do that. I should do a video about entrapment, right? And whether or not bait car would be considered entrapment. That'd be fun. All right, yeah. We're gonna kick some commie butt or whoever the other team is. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna have to send me your ideas for like if you want to merge. I'm thinking pins, right? You know my little bacon icon. Pins of that would be fun. Yeah, if you guys are interested. You know, you want a little bit of merch. I'm not going to start, throwing it in your face unless you want it. For sure. Jay Pavilion, if you want to call him, I won't stop you. I encourage you to not do it for nefarious reasons, but I believe on it's too late there. He won't answer. I've tried after 5 their time before. But it's on his it is on his website. Don't be spamming his phone. Don't be doing it. It's an order. But I digress. See, I threw that in there. Yeah. Look, if I'm going to have a catchphrase to merchandise, I got to start establishing a catchphrase. You know what I'm saying? All right, I'm going to try to do another stream tomorrow. If your questions don't get answered now, save them for then, and I will try to do that. Oh, the LAPD badges. Don't worry. We're working on that. For those of you who aren't familiar. All right, there's the last thing. Unless anyone else comes up with anything crazy. You know how I'm like, oh, it's not impersonating a police officer based on the look alone. Well, I'm realizing, because I've been doing a lot more research into what Florida does and does not allow. His badge is the LAPD badge with just different text that Jeremy DeWitt wears. His badge. Florida has a statute that prohibits you from wearing a badge from a law enforcement agency, like a real design. I don't know if that only counts for agencies within the state of Florida, or it would count for an agency within California, because you wouldn't expect someone in Florida to recognize a California badge. But there is a chance that California will not be happy, specifically Los Angeles will not be happy about his use of their symbol and their city seal, because it still has the city seal of Los Angeles on it. So I've reached out to them saying, hey, what are your thoughts on this? So we're going to see what happens there. replica MetroState badges. I'm not sure I'm allowed to do that. That might be setting me up for some civil liabilities. Depends if it's trademarked. But, like, Los Angeles is trademarked, so I can't do that anyway. Maybe I'll make patches of my little handcuffs with the donut. Anyway, I gotta get out of here. You guys keep distracting me with your excellent comments. But I digress. Now I'm gonna say that all the time. Thanks, guys. You've ruined it for everyone, bringing that up. I'm just kidding. All right. That's all I got for now. If there are any questions I haven't answered, I'm going to try to be streaming tomorrow as well. And so until the next time, be good and stay safe.